In this session, we are going to understand the concepts of Mapreduce. To understand Mapreduce, first let's take a very simple example. I have a book and the job given to me is to summarize the entire book. Now this is a big book which has a lot of chapters in it. So how do I solve this with the Mapreduce paradigm? I break this book into multiple chapters. So I have from chapter 1 to till 200. Now after breaking the chapters, I summarize this book chapter wise. I summarize chapter 1, chapter 2, the last chapter. Now I have the summary of individual chapters. Next what I do is, I consolidate all these summaries in one place. So I take the individual summaries of each chapter and consolidate them in this phase. Now this consolidation step gives me the summary of the whole book. As you can see, this is how my Mapreduce paradigm breaks one big job into smaller tasks and then aggregates over the output of these smaller tasks and gives me the output of the entire job. So now let's take a look at how this entire process translates into my Mapreduce computation and data flow. So in terms of Mapreduce, my book is the input data. My smaller summaries or my smaller chapters are the individual map phases. And the consolidation of the summaries is my reduce phase. And finally, from that consolidation phase, I get my output data. So when I submit a job, the input splits are processed by these map phases. The output of each mapper goes to a reducer. And finally, my reducer aggregates over the output of the mappers and gives us the final output. So this is how a Mapreduce computation works. Now let's take the example of the word count program. So my problem statement is that I have a large file which is my input. It can be a directory of large files or one single large file. So this large file resides in my HDFS directory. This file is divided into multiple input splits. Each input splits goes to a mapper. Now how this mapper works, each match function will read the original text as a pair of line offset and the actual line content. After reading, in my mapper, I have to implement the logic for tokenizing the line content into individual words. And then for each individual word, we have to provide a count. So my initial count is always going to be 1 for each word. Now the output of this mapper is sorted and grouped by word and then sent to a reducer. So what my reducer receives in the reduce function is a word and the array of its counts. Once we have a word and the array of its count, we can aggregate over this count array and get the total count out of the reducer function. So the final output of the reducer contains the word and the total count. So we can see that in this way, my multiple reducers are going to provide all the words which were read by the mapper and finally summarized into all the words and the corresponding total counts. So my final output is going to contain a list of words and the total counts. As the reducers keep writing output to HDFS, I keep getting all the words and the corresponding total count. This is how Mapreduce works, by breaking a job into multiple mappers and reducers, and the final output is combined at the end. This was an example of a file which contains text. Next, we will see an example which contains unstructured data and how Mapreduce is used to process the contents of unstructured files.